Hello, welcome back. In the last video, we discussed basically how the groundwork for the 13 colonies was made. In this video, I'm going to discuss how the 13 colonies became three distinct regions with three separate economies. From the very beginning, the 13 colonies were split into three different sub-regions: the New England colonies, the Middle colonies, and the Southern colonies. This had to do with the climate and the people who settled there. New England had cold winters and didn't have soil that supported large farms, as well as being heavily forested and having an extremely mountainous terrain. Most of the colonists in New England came from England and weren't from areas in England that were heavily forested. So this typically led them to building small towns off the coast centered around fishing, fur trading, timber, and shipbuilding, as they enjoyed the shortest route back to England by sea. Its largest city was Boston, and it was mainly populated by Pilgrims and Puritans. New England had the strictest religious practices and had little to no religious, racial, and ethnic diversity. Of all the New England states, only New Hampshire was founded for economic purposes. The rest of the states were founded for religious reasons. The middle colonies were Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and to a lesser extent Delaware. Of the middle colonies, only Pennsylvania was founded for religious reasons. The middle colonies were anchored around Philadelphia and New York, which were the nation's two largest cities. They had diverse economies built around services and benefited from a convenient location between New England and the southern colonies, as well as a pretty short ride back to Europe by sea. New York and northern New Jersey evolved from New Netherland, which was a trading post that allowed people of different religious backgrounds to trade with each other around their major city, New Amsterdam, which evolved into New York. Pennsylvania, southern New Jersey, and northern Delaware were founded by the Swedish colony New Sweden. The middle colonies had inhabitants from all over Europe. It was the most religious, it was the most diverse, it had the most diverse religious communities. People from all faiths, from Anglicans to Catholics to Calvinists, Jews, all could buy land and do business there, but it had a little Native American population and an even smaller African population. Because of the large numbers of Europeans in the area, this also and the building of the major cities, this also drove many Native Americans away from their homelands, as well as them dying from disease. But this is the background to the Negro spiritual, and of course that starts in the southern colonies. Of the southern colonies of Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, only Maryland was founded for religious purposes, which was mainly for religious freedom of Catholics, as their founder, Lord Baltimore, who the larger city was named after, was a Catholic. The rest of the southern colonies were founded for economic reasons, mainly trading tobacco. James Fort, renamed Jamestown in 1619, was the first British settlement. The colonists there suffered from starvation, disease, and attack from natives. They would eventually right the ship, though, however, working with the natives to build farms of tobacco, corn, and sugar. Eventually, the need for these farms to be worked almost year round led to those who own farms to resort to slaves. And in 1619, the Dutch vessel brought 20 slaves to Point Comfort, Virginia. The servants on board were more than likely from Angola. The colonies of Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, and North Carolina were built around small family-owned farms that used very few numbers of slaves. But the plantation-style system of slavery made famous in numerous movies and publications started in the South Carolina colony. They had larger numbers of affluent individuals immigrating to the U.S. to become even richer. They brought with them a certain standard of living which revolved around massive estates furnished with Roman columns, known colloquially as the Big House. The Big House sat on massive plantations of tobacco, rice, cotton, corn, etc. This massive display of wealth created the biggest separation of class, typically based upon race and income. This created a large, colorful identity in fashion and lifestyle, made famous by the quote unquote Southern Belle, and is still seen in major metropolitan areas like Atlanta, Miami, and New Orleans. The plantations and small towns also typically had a church or place of congregation where these Southerners could go and show off their colorful, musical, and diverse culture. Because of the large numbers of blacks and Native Americans, the southern colonies were easily the most racially diverse, with blacks sometimes accounting for more than 50% of the population in some areas, especially in South Carolina and Georgia. In fact, more than 40% of the slaves imported to the United States were went through the port of Charleston, and another 10% went through the Sea Islands of Sapelo Island in Georgia. The music sung by these slaves is what we know today as the Negro spiritual, and in the next video I will begin to discuss the history of the spiritual, including the art forms it evolved from, and the songs that were made most famous by the slaves who sung them. Thank you very much for watching this video. You all have a wonderful day. I'd like for you to please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.